So anyways, that's, Alex's perspective, but that's also because I came from somebody who really wanted outside validation. And so the easiest and first place to start for me was my body. So I started lifting when I was 13 years old. So I'm like almost 20 years in this game in terms of like the lifting and health and stuff. And so for me, this is not like we talked about it at dinner last night. It's like, this is not in any way time consuming for me mentally, because like I am a healthy person and I do these things because that is who I am. And so it is not very difficult for me. It's just difficult for people to make the change. And I know the quote you were saying, which is, when change occurs when the pain of staying the same, the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change.
Correct.
Right. And so it's like, if your current existence hurts more than the discomfort that you will go through, then you will go through the new discomfort to get out of the current pain.
Right.
And so for me, I would like, you know what I mean? Like there's a million ways you can do it. And that's why when you say like the root issue, it's like, there's lots of tiny cues in Alex's environment that reinforce his current behavior. It's not one thing. Yeah. It's like, what's in the pantry as soon as he walks in the door, like just like all of these tiny little things. So like you can change someone's environment. And I'll tell you an interesting one that I actually read in James Clear's book. But so heroin's very hard to get off of, and that's a statement of belief, but I'll just bear with me. In Vietnam, I think it was 15%, and then later they thought it was 20% of guys who went there tried heroin. Insane. Like that's an insane statistic. And what was interesting about that is that when those Vietnamese now became veterans and came back, 90% of them never did it again. And the reverse statistic is true of like US based addiction programs, right? 90% of people do heroin again after they leave the program. So how can you have the most addictive substance, right? And you've got a 90% success rate in one incident, and then you've got like a 90% failure rate in the other. And this one wasn't even a program, and this one was, right? And so what happens is people, if you can pull someone out of the environment entirely, it's actually much easier to do, because it's like you hang out with certain people, right, and they reinforce those behaviors. You have cues in your environment that you've associated with, which reinforce the behaviors. And so like if you really went all in on something like this, and you could apply this to any type of behavior, whether it was drugs or food or whatever, is like honestly just changing everything about your life, and then starting from scratch is like, I'm making these big changes, I'm burning the boats, I'm being this person, and I will make these choices as a result of this in accordance with that. Is sometimes the best way to do it, is like clean slate, but that might sound like a lot of change. And so you can also just not do any of that stuff, and just eat less. But it's just tackling the big issue, which is like why you don't care.
I'd say one of the biggest things, like you guys were saying, where the discomfort of the environment is so bad that it forces change. And the discomfort of going through it is easier. I will say, I mean, I've had situations where, like going on a plane for me, terrible experience, right? Yeah. I mean, just stuff like my wife probably wants to go parasailing if we go on vacation. I probably can't do that, Yeah. And it's just like, I feel like there's a lot of like life that I'm missing out on. And I've thought about it so deeply that, I mean, I've cried about it before. Yeah. But apparently like it's not hard enough to change me, but I don't know if I need to hit rock bottom for like me to make a change.
That's great. That's a great statement, because it is a good statement of belief to say, I don't need to hit rock bottom to make a change. I agree with that. I think that is a belief that serves you.
Yeah. And so I don't know how to just click it. Like I really don't.
Well, you just start. That's all. There's nothing complex about it. You just start. You go home, you take away the stuff that you eat that's not good. That's it. At the end of the day, you've got to be ready, and we're not going to talk you into it, right? Like if you not being able to live half of the life is not sufficient, then you got to find something that is. A good friend of mine ran a super marathon, and it was like extremely difficult for him. And he said, I think on social media, he was like, I just had a big bag of whys. So he didn't just have one why. He had to have a huge bag of just like, you just pull out why after why after why after why to keep him going through this thing. And so like, maybe you don't need one why. Maybe you need a lot of whys. Maybe you don't have enough whys. Do you need enough whys? I mean, at the end of the day, like this change is yours. You've got to make it. And it's when It's when the reality of the condition is real for you. Like, it breaks my heart. It really does. I mean that like in the most sincere way. My mother was super overweight my whole life. And she just recently, in the last 2 years, she's now in her 60s, like my whole life, super overweight, like morbidly obese. In the last 2 years, and for me, that might be my, an easy why for me is like, I don't want to live that. Easy. Boom. I don't need, like, not even a thought to me, right? But when her physician, and mind you, my mother is a physician. So like, crazy, right? It was only when her physician, after trying, she tried all these diets for whatever, it was when she was like, you're not going to see your grandkids. Like 0% chance. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see them. You're going to die before that. Like, there's no question. And it was only in that moment that she decided to really do it. And she always knew what to do. Eat less, walk more. It's not rocket science, right? But for her, that was enough that whenever she was confronted with decision, because you have 100 micro decisions that happen every day. Am I going to take the stairs? Am I not going to take the stairs? Am I going to walk? Am I not going to do it? Am I going to grab this extra bag or not? Right? Or whatever it is. And so I think it's like, if you have that at the root, you'll be able to make the change. And then that will get you through the discomfort phase so that you can change your identity. And I love this. Again, I read this in the Atomic Habits book, which is really good. But if you look at identity, it's the root of two words. You've got entity. There's the Latin version of it, but basically being. And then you've identical, right? Which is repeated. And so like identity is literally repeated being, is what we repeatedly do is who we are. And like when you describe somebody, you're like, he's the type of person who X, Y, and Z's, right? Like that's how we even describe identity, is what people do. And so the nice thing is that you don't win the vote of identity all at once. It's just one vote at a time. And the beautiful thing is that you can just be like 51%, just like a vote. Like if you just do a little more, you win. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do more than you do bad. And if you do that for a long enough period of time, like it will continue to reinforce itself. And so a lot of people have a binary vision of like what, quote, perfect health style them looks like. And that's silly and it's a farce. And it'd be like trying to pretend like you're going to be a perfect human. It's not going to happen. Right. But like you could also redefine healthy as just somebody who like just doesn't binge. You know what I mean? Or like just like you already know the stuff. So like there's no point even getting in the tactics of this because it's just behavior change. And so I probably went too deep on that, but it breaks my heart, but it has to break your heart.
Yeah, I think for me, okay, so some people have different reasons for why they're not currently doing it, right? Yeah. For me, I have the knowledge, right? I research into what I need to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm like in my head, to be honest, I'm ready to make the change. But the one thing I think that is holding me back, the more I think about it, is like the feeling of like, I don't know how to describe it other than like imposter syndrome, right? Like what really, and maybe this is just stemming from like confidence issues, what really makes me think that I can do this? Like, and I think that is what like is my biggest hurdle probably. And I don't know how to overcome that.
Here's something cool. You don't need to be confident to do this because your calories don't care if you're confident.
Yeah, but for you...
No, calories don't care if I'm confident or you're confident or anyone's confident. Calories do not care.
No, I understand. No, I understand that. But like, I mean, in my head, I need to be like confident about it to follow.
But that's a statement. That's a statement of belief.
Fail. So he's why try? Because I'm going to fail. Mm-hmm. That's it.
But it's one of those things where you can't let the past burn you twice, right? Which is like if you failed in the past, if you project that failure into the present, then that past failure continues to repeat itself by you not even trying. It's like if we're looking at a kid who's walking, right, and they fall, we're not like, I think it's just going to be a crawler. You know, like we don't say that, right? But like right now you're applying that same, like you say so much worse things to yourself when it's like, if you failed, so what? It's like, it's a process. You're going to learn to walk and you'll learn to walk eventually as long as you don't stop.
That's true. So basically what you're saying is, if I'm not trying and fail, like if I'm like trying and failing, it's better than just sitting here and being like, well, I'm not going to start because I'm going to fail. And just like,
why don't we say this? Why don't we say, yes, you're going to fail. Expect failure. It's like starting a business. Of course you're going to fail. That is part of the game. But saying that you fall, like that you stop doing something versus failing are two very different things. You're defining failure as if you eat a pizza one day, right? but then the other rest of the week you're fine. Did you fail?
No.
Right. So it's like we just need to we just need to strip away the perfection and get to the, like, if I directionally move in this way over a long enough period of time, I will get there, as long as I don't stop.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was a good point.
You're everything that you're saying is great. I mean, it's for some reason it's just stuff that like I don't
It's not sticking.
think about. I don't think about it. To be frank.
You'd have to pull this thread. And I don't necessarily know that we have the time to do it on this podcast, but like you have to figure out why your gut instinct was to say eating healthy was bad. Like that's basically like if I were to make this boil this down into simple terms, you're like, I started eating healthy and I decided it was bad. So it's figuring out why you made that experience bad in your head and figuring out like, because there's probably other things that eating does for you. It probably relieves stress, right? So it's like great.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that there's lots of cues for stress in our lives. So you have a number of cues that trigger the behavior. So it's not just one. It's like you can get stressed for a zillion things and then have a really easy, because like habits are created for like mental shortcuts so we don't have to make decisions. And so it's like, I feel stressed. I can resolve this immediately with this thing. I don't even think about it. You're just starting to walk towards the fridge when you feel stressed, right? And so to break this, like, man, we're gonna get way too deep into behavior stuff. So I'll cut it at this, which is you got to figure out why you didn't start yesterday. And there's a reason that you have, and you need to name the reason. And it may be ridiculous, but like some people are like, it's just not convenient. Cool. Then make it convenient. And then all of a sudden, like sometimes it's the tiniest thing. Like I'll tell you this tiny example, which is I try and put face cream on every night before I go to bed. It's like one of the habits that I really was like, I'm going to try and do this. Right. And when the maids come, sorry, this sounds ridiculous. When the maids come to clean our place, I have like my bedside set up, and then they take all my stuff that's like right next to me, and then they like move it along the back line of the bedside table. So like the cream's like over a box, and like it's hard to reach. And when I'm in bed, I can't reach it. And after that, and I had to realize it because I was like, I'd get on a good routine, and then like 2 or 3 days in, I would stop doing it. And then I realized the only reason I stopped doing it was because I didn't see the cream. And if I did remember the cream, it was like I would have to get out of bed to go grab it and then put it back. And so I had to tell the maids, leave them along the side and don't move them. It's the tiny, like these tiny things, just like I had a visual cue and it made it more difficult. So I removed the visual cue because it was further away, and then it got harder rather than making it easier and making it obvious.
I think I have an answer for you, actually.
Okay.
So the only reason that I thought about food all day in my quote unquote toxic behavior is because I was hungry. Yeah, this sounds stupid.
No, you're not. You're not. You're bored. If you could eat a chicken breast, like if you're like, oh man, I could go for a chicken breast, you're hungry. If you're like, oh, I could like go for a snack, you're bored.
I don't know. It felt like hunger, but
yeah, of course. You don't know the difference.
Yeah,
yet.
I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference.
You learn the difference when you're really hungry. You're like, chicken sounds great. Like an apple sounds delicious. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like when you're bored, you're like, I could go for some chips. You know what I mean? Like if you could go for a chicken breast that's dry with no sauce, that's when you're hungry.
I think you're 100%.
You probably haven't.
You know what? Thinking about it, guys, I know this sounds so. You're right. It sounds stupid. It sounds so stupid. But like in my head, right?
Yeah.
Until you said that, I was convinced that I was hungry all the time. But now that you said that, I don't think I was hungry. And I know that sounds stupid. You guys are like probably laughing. I swear to
That's
whatever
true for
you
me
believe
too,
in.
Alex. Yeah.
No, yeah,
A lot of the times where I'm just like little snack, it's the dead space where you would normally reach for your phone.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I may as well just eat a quick snack.
Alex, you haven't been hungry in years. Like you don't know what hunger is.
What are you trying to say about that?
I'm saying that you've been overfeeding for a very long period of time, and so you have such a surplus that and stores that your body can take from for a very long period of time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I just had like an epiphany. I think I don't know. This is so crazy. I think I don't know the difference between being hungry and being bored. I know that sounds stupid.
No,
'cause
it's fine.
It
I think
should.
very few people know the difference between
Just-
even me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then,
I'm trying to
okay,
think of the
but
last
if
time I
you
was
don't know the
hungry.
difference,
you
then
like
why
chicken
don't you look
breast,
like
yeah.
me, Graham?
What's up?
If you don't know the difference, then why don't you look like me?
Well, you're pretty physically active.
Yeah, I've been going to the gym quite a lot, but I always my default is probably eating healthy. But until I've started tracking calories, I've realized that I've eaten more than I've expected. But my default is still eat healthy, eat small portions, but without tracking it, I eat more than I think I do.
I just want to thank you for your time. I didn't mean to bring you on the podcast and like bombard you with my physique questions
man.
or anything, but
I'm sure there are other people who are listening who are. You could replace this with alcohol. You could replace this with, whatever. It's the same thing.
my mind is just blown right now. Like I feel like now I feel like I could do it.
And I just want to just reinforce this one point, which is just because you are hungry does not mean you need to eat. So you used being hungry as a justification for eating. You can be hungry and not eat. You can be horny and not have sex with somebody who's not your wife. So just because you have a feeling doesn't mean you need to take action on it.
Right.
So first we had to delineate between the fact that most of the time you're bored and not actually hungry. But even if you are hungry, that doesn't give you permission to then go eat. Because if you diet, you will be hungry, actually. And a chicken breast will sound good.
So
but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have permission to eat outside of what you think you need to hit for your calorie intake.
Is it just like a mental thing at that point?
You already know the calorie stuff. There's no point in getting into that. Like if you really want to do it, you already know. Like you Google it, you know you need to eat less than you are right now, and you would just do that.
Is it just reminding yourself that like you know how much you're supposed to eat and just saying I have enough to live. It's just my body telling me.
You could right now literally drink water and take a multivitamin for a year, and be fine.
There's no way.
100%, promise you. They've already done studies on this. You can absolutely do it.
I mean, I'm not going to, but
That's fine. Yeah. But I'm saying like you have more than enough stores to last you for a very long time. So like the only thing you're doing to eat is just like you're just moving things through your system, but like that's it. Like they've done starvation studies and like your basal metabolic rate goes down, but not by, it goes down by 30%, which is something, but it's not massive. And you're still going to have a high basal metabolic rate overall because you have more of you to feed and maintain. Like fat takes calories to keep alive. Like you have fat on you, but it still requires blood and nutrients to stay alive, right? To like not, become dead tissue. So like in a lot of ways, it's easiest to lose weight when you are bigger. So you can keep saying that as your refrain. It's like, I am bigger, which means it should be easier for me to lose weight because it is.
yeah, I don't want to linger on this too long because I think we've gone long enough. But I seriously, I want to thank you.
You bet.
Today the day, Alex?
I think so, but he kind of scared. Yeah,
yes
because
or
he
no?
kinda, yes, it is. He kind of scared me with
today's
he kind of scared me with the like you're gonna be the real hungry, and I'm just like, oh, but you know what? I think I've just been eating because I'm bored, and I know people are gonna think this is stupid. Like Alex, of course you were eating when you were bored, but to me, I'm telling you guys, like I truly felt hungry. Like in my head, that was hunger, and thinking back, I don't think that was.
Yeah,
I don't
just distract yourself.
and that was kind of stupid. So.